She pressed her horn again, long and loud like she owned the place. I was fixing the fence when her silver SUV rolled right through my private property sign, tires crushing the edge of my corn patch. "You can't block this path," she yelled, stepping out in her spotless white sneakers. "This road belongs to the HOA. I wiped the sweat off my forehead and stared at her. This so-called road ran straight through my farm. "Ma'am," I said slowly, "there's no HOA here. This is county land, and that patch you're standing on, that's mine." She laughed, waving a clipboard. "Not anymore," she said. "I've got papers that say otherwise." She slapped a fake notice on my gate. Non-compliant property. Removal required. I watched her drive away, her tires kicking up dust over my crops, and something inside me clenched. That night I pulled out the old files. Land deed, survey maps, my grandfather's signature, everything. She was bluffing, but she'd picked the wrong man to scare. I'd served 10 years building defensive perimeters overseas. Digging trenches wasn't new to me. When she came back the next morning, blasting music and speeding over my field again, I was already ready. I watched from the porch as her SUV bounced once, twice, then the front wheels dropped. The ground gave way under her tires, mud swallowing her chrome rims like quicksand. She screamed, slamming the door, her perfect shoes sinking when she stepped out. I didn't move. I just sipped my coffee and said quietly, "Guess the HOA didn't approve that shortcut." She called it a road. I called it my land. And the land decided who was right. She stood there, mud splashed up to her knees, waving her phone like a weapon. "I'm calling the cops," she shouted, her voice trembling more from shock than anger. I shrugged, leaning on the porch rail. "Go ahead," I said. "Make sure you tell them where you're standing." She frowned, glancing down at the deep brown mess that had once been her shortcut. "You think this is funny?" she yelled. "You're going to jail for this." I didn't answer. I just walked down the steps slowly, the gravel crunching under my boots. "Ma'am," I said, "you've been trespassing for weeks. You tore my signs, crushed my crops, and now you're standing in the middle of my property, accusing me of a crime." Her lips tightened. She didn't like being challenged. People like her never do. A sheriff's cruiser pulled up a few minutes later. I recognized the deputy who stepped out, Mike, my old hunting buddy. Karen ran up to him before he even shut the door. "Officer, arrest him," she shouted. "He dug a pit and trapped my car." Mike raised an eyebrow, then looked at me. I didn't have to say a word. He knew that stretch of land was mine. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "do you have proof this is an HOA road?" She opened her clipboard like it was a holy book, flipping papers with shaking fingers. Mike took them, skimmed through, and then chuckled. "These are fake," he said. "The logo's from a template website." Her face went red. No, it's real." "He's lying." I stayed quiet, watching her crumble. Mike handed me the papers and whispered, "You want to press charges for trespassing?" I shook my head. "Not yet," I said softly, "but I'm done being quiet." She glared at me, eyes sharp with fury. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I smiled because she had no idea what I was holding back. I had cameras, hidden ones. Every time she'd driven across my land, every lie, every fake paper, all caught in crystal clear footage. She thought her fake papers gave her power, but I had something stronger, the truth caught on camera. That night I stayed up watching the footage again just to be sure everything was clear. Every single time she'd crossed the fence line, every word she'd thrown at me, it was all there. I even caught her ripping down my no trespassing sign last week, laughing with someone on the phone as she said, "He's too scared to fight back." I saved every clip and copied them onto a flash drive. I wasn't scared anymore. I was done being polite. The next morning, I drove into town. Her SUV was still sitting in the mud, abandoned. I passed by it slow, just enough to see her HOA sticker hanging half-torn on the back bumper. When I reached the sheriff's office, Mike met me at the door. "You really gonna go through with this?" he asked. "She's caused enough trouble," I said. "It's time someone stopped her." He nodded and we walked in together. I handed over the flash drive, every piece of proof neatly labeled by date and time. The sheriff looked through the first few clips, then leaned back in his chair. "That's clear trespassing, maybe even fraud," he said. "We'll handle it." But before I could leave, the phone on his desk rang. He picked it up, listened for a moment, then looked right at me. "She just filed a report," he said. "Claims you threatened her life with a weapon." My heart sank for a second. "What?" I said quietly. That's a lie. He nodded. I know. But until we verify, I've got to play by the book. By the time I got back home, 2 patrol cars were already waiting. Karen was standing there, arms crossed, crocodile tears in her eyes, pretending to tremble. He's dangerous, she told the officers. He pointed a gun at me. They turned toward me, one hand resting on a holster. I didn't even flinch. Check my security cameras, I said calmly. Every inch of this land is recorded. If I ever point at anything, you'll see it. Her expression froze. She hadn't known about the live feed backup stored off-site. She thought she could frame me with lies, but my cameras saw everything she didn't want the world to see. The officers stepped inside the house while I waited by the porch. I could hear them murmuring as the footage played on the monitor, Karen's voice echoing from the speakers, cursing, threatening, trespassing. After a few minutes, they came back out. Their faces different now, less suspicion, more disbelief. Sir, one of them said, we saw the footage. You never had a weapon. She made the whole thing up. I nodded slowly, my jaw tight. She's been doing this for weeks, I said. Trying to scare me off my own land. Karen's face drained of color, but she tried to hold her ground. You don't understand, she said weakly. This land belongs to the Homeowners Association. We have rules. The officer glanced at her, then at me, and asked, You got the deed? I went inside, came back with a weathered folder. Original deed signed by my grandfather in 1974. One of the officers held it up to the light, checked the seal, and whistled. This is legit, he said. There's no HOA jurisdiction here. Karen's hands started shaking. That can't be, she whispered. We sent the letters, we had meetings. I cut her off. You faked the letters. You invented the meetings. She opened her mouth to argue, but just then her phone buzzed. Loud, urgent. She looked down and her face twisted. Oh no, she muttered. Mike stepped closer. What's wrong? She didn't answer, just turned her screen away, but I saw the reflection in her car window. It was a message from someone named Lance HOA Legal Dept. We told you not to use our name again. You're on your own. My stomach dropped. She wasn't even with the HOA. She'd been running a fake one, sending notices to half the neighborhood, collecting fees into her personal account. She realized I'd seen it. You don't understand, she stammered. I was just trying to keep order. You were trying to keep power, I said coldly, and now it's slipping through your hands. She claimed to represent the HOA, but the only thing she represented was greed, and it finally turned on her. Karen's mask cracked right there in front of everyone. The fake calm she always carried was gone, and now she looked like someone cornered, desperate, twitching, lost. You can't prove I took anything, she said, her voice shaking. Mike folded his arms. We've got your messages, Karen. Every notice you sent, every payment you collected. It all traces back to your personal account. She went pale. You went through my... No, he interrupted. Your victims did. You scammed them. You made them pay for lawn violations, trash bins, parking on their own driveways. She backed up step by step, until her heel sank again into the muddy trench where her SUV was still half buried. You people don't get it, she said quietly. If I didn't take control, this place would fall apart. Someone had to enforce the rules. I couldn't help but laugh. You mean your rules? The kind that only benefit you. She looked at me like I'd just betrayed some secret trust. You think you're better than me? She hissed. You think being some farmer makes you pure? I took a breath. No, but it means I work for what's mine. She glared at me, eyes wet but cold, like she was calculating one last move. Then she did it. She lunged for her phone, dialing fast, yelling, I'll sue every one of you. I'll take your farm, Before she could finish, the sheriff's cruiser lights flashed down the road. Real backup. Not her pretend authority this time. The sheriff stepped out, calm but sharp. Karen Mitchell, he said. You're under arrest for fraud, harassment, and impersonating an HOA official. She froze, mouth open. You can't arrest me, she said, voice cracking. I was just following policy. He pulled the handcuffs from his belt. Ma'am, he said evenly, you made up the policy. The sound of those cuffs clicking shut was the first peace I'd felt in months. As they led her to the cruiser, she turned one last time. You'll regret this, she screamed. I met her eyes and said quietly, You already do. She built her fake power on fear, and when the truth showed up, it all sank like her car in the mud. The morning after her arrest, the whole neighborhood seemed different. Quiet, like the air itself had exhaled. For weeks, people had lived under her fake rules. No flags, no pets outside, no trucks parked after dark. Now, folks were stepping out again, talking over fences, waving like neighbors used to. Mrs. Hill from across the field came over with a pie and said, "We thought you were crazy, you know," till we saw her face on the news. I smiled. "Yeah," I said. Turns out the crazy one was the one in charge. By noon, the story had spread all over town. Local news ran the footage. Her fake notices, her shouting, the trench, everything. People couldn't stop watching. Some were angry they'd paid her fees. Others were just stunned that one woman could fake an entire HOA. I stayed out of the spotlight, but the sheriff called later. "You did good," he said. "Half the town's filing claims against her now." I didn't feel proud exactly, more relieved, like something heavy had finally fallen off my shoulders. That night I walked out to the trench again. Her SUV was gone, towed away by the impound. But her tire tracks still cut through the edge of my corn patch, deep scars in the soil. I stared at them for a while, then started fixing the fence again, post by post. That's when I saw the envelope. It was stuck in the mud, half soaked, sealed with that same fake HOA logo. I opened it, and inside was a list. Names, addresses, amounts collected. But one entry at the bottom caught my eye. Farm Plot 7B, transfer pending. My plot. I felt a chill run through me. She'd been planning something bigger. This wasn't just about power. She was trying to take my land for real. I thought it ended with her arrest, but the envelope in the mud said otherwise. I rushed inside, the envelope clutched tight in my hand. The paper was smudged and wet, but the signature at the bottom was still clear. Someone else had signed it. Not Karen. The name read Thomas R. Dane, County Records Dept. My stomach turned. That meant someone inside the system had helped her. Maybe that's why she acted so confident, like she couldn't be touched. I sat down, spread the papers across the table, and took photos of everything. If she wasn't working alone, there was a lot more dirt waiting to be dug up. I called Mike. "You need to see this," I said. He came by an hour later, his truck headlights cutting through the mist. I handed him the papers. He frowned, scanning the signature. "Thomas Dane," he muttered. "He works in permits, quiet guy, keeps to himself. You think he's part of this?" I nodded. "That document says she was about to transfer my land. How's that even possible without someone inside?" Mike didn't answer. He pulled out his phone and made a quick call to the sheriff. A few minutes later, he hung up and looked at me. "Dane's missing," he said. The next day, reporters were at my gate again, asking if I'd seen Karen since her arrest. I told them no, but something in me didn't sit right. That night, I got a message from an unknown number. No text, just a picture, a photo of my land deed torn in half, lying on what looked like a desk, and below it, a single line. "You stopped one of us, not all of us." For a second, I thought, maybe Karen had sent it from jail, but the timestamp said it came from somewhere local. Someone else was still out there trying to finish what she started. I stared out at the dark fields, the wind moving through the trees, and said quietly to myself, "You picked the wrong farm." She was just the face of it. But the real power was hiding in the shadows, and they'd just made it personal. That night I didn't sleep. Every sound outside felt sharper. Every creak in the old house heavier. By dawn, I was already on the porch, coffee in one hand, shotgun leaning by the door, not for show, but for peace of mind. The fog sat low, over the field, thick and gray, and for a second I thought I saw someone moving near the fence line. I stepped down the porch steps slowly, boots sinking into damp soil, and called out, "You don't have to hide. I know you're out there." Silence. Then a voice. A man's, calm but distant. "You should have left it alone, farmer." The fog swallowed him before I could see his face. By afternoon, Mike and the sheriff were back. I showed them the text, the photo of my torn deed, the signature on the forged transfer papers. The sheriff whistled low. Looks like Karen wasn't the mastermind, he said. She was a front for something bigger. They traced the phone number. It led straight to the county records office, Dane's workstation. Only problem was, Dane had cleared out his desk that morning and disappeared. We'll issue a warrant, the sheriff said, but you keep your gates locked tonight. That evening I repaired the trench she'd wrecked, packed the last of the fake papers into a box, and placed it inside the barn. The land was quiet again, still breathing, still mine. I looked over the horizon where the sun was setting, painting the sky gold. My grandfather used to say, "The land remembers who stands for it." I finally understood what he meant. A week later, news broke that Dane had been caught at the state line with fake deeds for 6 different properties, including mine. Karen had cut a deal, trading her silence for leniency, and exposed the whole operation. The sheriff called me the next day. "It's over," he said. I laughed, not out of joy but relief. "Good," I replied, "because I'm done fighting for what's already mine." That night, as I sat on the porch under the wide open sky, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The kind you only get when truth wins quietly but completely. I didn't fight for this land in a war just to lose it to a fake HOA. The ground I stand on is mine, and now everyone knows it.